Hello, guys. Stand by for a quick introduction. Welcome back to another episode of the Strongman Winner Circle podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Canby, and this is episode 83 with Christopher Otero of New Mexico, USA. Christopher is having a great year, winning his pro card at the Olympic City Pro-Am, having a great competition at America's Strongest Man, and then recently has followed up those competitions by finishing 5th at World's Strongest Man 105 kilo, where he took 2 event wins. So let's sit down with the man from New Mexico. Let's hear a little more about his story. Let's figure out why he's such a great deadlifter, and let's figure out what's in store for him in the future on today's episode of the Strongman Winner Circle podcast with Christopher Otero. Today's episode is sponsored by TsunamiBarSports.com, and head over to oddobjects.co to get your KB shirt. And if you're enjoying all the episodes, consider being a member and get exclusive access to all my cool videos. And without further ado, here is the Deadlift Master himself, Christopher Otero.
Those intros are always the best. I don't care who they are. You always do everyone justice.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And it was easy because you had a great year and you supplied me with plenty of photos, but your YouTube is actually quite descriptive. So a lot of good quality footage. So I actually have your Instagram in the description below, but I should put your YouTube in there because you've been doing a good job. But welcome to the show. How's your body feeling from after OSG?
I'm feeling pretty good for the most part. I think there was a flu/cold running around that seems to have gotten a few of the guys. So hopefully everyone else is recovered from that. But aside from that, no aches or pains really. Just bounced right back.
Are you planning to take a little bit of an off season, or are you going to go? Are you right back into training already?
I'm already back into training. I can't stop. It's like a physical addiction. You just gotta if you spend more than I want to say a week out of the gym, something just starts nagging at you, to be get in there. You're getting too comfortable. You gotta start getting that blood pumping everywhere.
Absolutely. So you're right back at it. Do you have any big off season goals going forward?
I wish I had an off season.
No. So are you back in competition prep?
Yeah, I'm in competition prep. Right now, it looks like I'll be prepping for, unless something goes wrong, I'll be going to the Cumbrian Invitational.
Cool. Very, very cool. So that is in mid-February right now?
February 15th.
Cool. Excellent. Will this be your first overseas show?
It will be my first overseas show.
Excellent. Well, so how many weeks are we out? Is that 8 weeks?
I couldn't count. I was so happy to get the invitation at the end of last week that I was just kind of coordinating everything to just make it happen.
Cool. That'll be exciting. Of course, I know Luke Davies and Rihanna Lovelace, of course, put on really good shows out there. So I'll be excited to see kind of the production, especially this is going to be their high level 105 kilo show. So I know that Emmanuel Pasquale is coming out. I know, of course, our buddy James Deffenbog is coming out too. So a lot of good competition. And I imagine potentially a few other names might kind of squeak in there by the time the competition I would say gets closer. But I did want to start the episode with kind of a fun question. But they say that you shouldn't ego lift, but your Instagram is Chris Ego Lifts, and it looks like things are going well for you. So you think more people should ego lift going forward?
Depends on what you define it as. I'll admit it's just a fun name that I chose more than anything else. But then again, what is strongman but ego lifting all the time?
Absolutely. Do you want to showcase your strength and show everybody who's the strongest in that particular region, state, or nation? So absolutely, that's very important. But
I might correct you on that just ever so slightly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's showing who the strongest is. It's seeing where you rank personally between everyone. And I love the idea of just every strongman out there, and woman, just doing their absolute best in prep and then getting the chance to showcase it to everyone, to have that one day or 2 days, or, you know, in the case of something like OSG, 3 days to really just like set your heart ablaze and put it all out there so that you can see what's capable by other people, but two, what you're capable yourself.
Yeah, really like kind of showcase your abilities. I love it. Now, how did you originally get started in strongman, and when did you get started?
That's a really good question. I have somewhat of an interesting story, like a short, like half start thing. So,
Yeah.
when I was 16, I decided I wanted to go to military school. And at the military school, they had some strongman equipment all over the place. And it's very weird because no one was there to show us it. And the instructors and stuff were like, well, you need to have two people to lift pretty much anything. But there was kegs, there were tires, there was a Fingal's finger, and I can't remember if there was anything else. Well, I guess just chains and things like that just hanging around, like odd objects. And I think there might have been like an anchor too. I don't know why we had it there because we were in the middle of the desert, but it was there. So I would say that was the first kind of like heartbeat of like strongman coming in. And then once I had graduated college back in 28 or yeah, at the end of 2017, going into 2018, I just looked up strongman gyms in my area, and there was this powerlifting gym that came up, and I just happened to find a coach who was able to like show me the ropes and get that like nice first introduction into strongman. And then I went and competed at a show called Farmer Strong, which was the first year that they had it in Farmington, New Mexico, and got like my real love and passion from it entering the novice class there.
Cool. And then of course the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history. Just slowly climbing up that strongman core USS ladder to make my way to where I'm at now.
Now, was the nationals that you did last year, was that your first strongman corp nationals? Because I know that's when I first heard of you, because I remember my buddy Dan Hughes was, I think, judging your lane for the deadlift, and he said that you pulled 900 on a trap bar like a speed rep, and I think you had one more attempt in you, but you didn't have to do it because you already beat all the other 105s. But was
I think I actually had like 3 attempts.
3 attempts. Okay, all right. So you have plenty more attempts, but you cut it down at 900. But yeah, was that your first strongman corp nationals?
No, I did strongman core nationals back in 2020. That was my very first one.
All right.
And that was very much a like, and I do recommend that other people do this as well. That was a very much I'm pretty good in my local scene. I would do pretty okay, like maybe average in the whole pack as far as like everyone is concerned. Let me go ahead and give it a shot and see where I rank. And that was actually still a pretty good nationals for me, considering I was on the upswing. I would say the most impressive thing that I did at that one was just tie for, I think it was third on the Husafel carry, carrying I think it was 375 for 300 feet. So that was my first one where I got that like introduction to like what a national level show is. And then 2023 was the year that I had set my sights on, I'm getting that pro card.
All right. Excellent. Yeah, that 2020 nationals was a very stacked nationals, because that's the nationals, of course, coming out of COVID. That, of course, you had guys that haven't competed all year, and this is the one opportunity that they had. So it brought out all the best 231s. And I believe that's the year that Justin Loy won,
No, Justin Loy won that year.
He tied. So the year he tied Anthony, he did win. I'm trying to think.
Anthony? So
no,
Anthony
I think that was
there. He was there at the nationals, but he was like coaching or just hanging out. Really cool, like fun, smiley guy. Wish we could see him more in general. Just from the one time meeting him in 2020. But Justin Loy had like one of the most dominant years.
Yes.
In 2020 at that nationals. Like his bag toss was just insane.
I'm trying to think that what year was the year that San Lorenzo tied the winner? I thought for some reason it might have been that year.
It might have been 2021 or 2022.
Okay. I'm getting all my years mixed up. But yeah, of course that would have been a very kind of a good introduction to, I would say, the national scene back then. Now, did you have any early inspirations back when? I always say like my favorite inspirations, one of them is, and we always say give thanks to Mr. Sojourner but in general, do you have any early inspirations in terms of strongman or even the world of strength?
I mean, I'm the deadlifting guy, so of course, you know, John Paul's my guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course, he had he dominated a lot of great shows, and he was of course revered during the time. So yeah, I imagine you watched a lot of the old times World's Strongest Man episodes, even prior to your prior to competing.
I actually got into more of the older stuff, I think, as I got into the sport, but most of the like I think I was watching most of like the early like 2013, 2014 stuff when Brian Shaw was getting really big, and it was just kind of like seeing the sport for those who actually like get into strongman. Like sometimes it's just like that looks really cool. I want to do that, and I'm just so happy that weight class strongman has like taken off so much to the point where like anyone can come out and just see what it's like to lift these different implements and also get that experience of lifting like awkward objects because it does translate over into real life really well, and it's just surprising.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, talk a little bit about OSG. So, I imagine you took a little bit of a break after America's Strongest Man, and you put together a pretty good prep. Or did you qualify for OSG and then do the OSG, get into the OSG finals training?
Oh, I was a bad kid. I was way too excited at the idea of doing ASM. Like there was just way too many strong guys there that I was like, dude, I want to meet all of them. This is going to be great. We're going to all go compete and hang out and do all these things. And yeah, we did do that. And it was a great show for that introduction. But also, I had set my sights this year on going to OSG and seeing how I stacked with everyone else because I didn't really know where I stood at the beginning of the year, especially after getting 11th 14th, I think, at Nationals in 2023. So I was like, let's see where we're at OSG after we've put in some time, put in some training to do things. But yeah, I went to the Southwest Regionals literally like a month after doing ASM.
All right, excellent. So now, how was your prep leading into this? I imagine it went pretty well. Did you have like a pretty routine prep, or like tell us about kind of training leading up to it?
Well, it was I'll be honest, it was not the best prep in the world. And there's some things that I can fix on my end to like get it to be better, but they're just small things like fixing dieting and timing and things of that nature for like cutting and things like that. Cause going into it, I probably had my literal best day of training ever about 2 months before the show. And then we started the cut like about a month out, and that cut just destroyed me after like it was such a contrast having my literal best day and then just feeling that like strength go away by just like losing the calories and things like that. So I think there's things that can be adjusted there that'll help make that go better. But even at that, I'm still grateful that I was able to like perform at least to my best abilities with the kit that I had brought to the show.
Now, where did you start your like, for instance, like where did you start when you started dieting? What were you weighing at?
I was peak bulk. I was like 255. I think we started the cut at 251.
Okay, all right. And then how much did you weigh a week out?
I think I was 242 about a week out.
Okay, all right. So pretty routine water load, but yeah, not easy nonetheless, but still, I would say pretty routine. So
Well,
yeah,
we did adjustments on the diet to like help ease things into that like cut a little bit better. It was just way too jarring for the amount of training that I was doing, plus the amount of food that I was eating at the same time. Because I was eating a lot, like a lot. And then I was still losing weight, which was the thing that was like blowing my mind. And then, nutrition coach came in and was like, hey, we need to cut you down like a little bit more.
Now, who do you use for your nutrition?
I use CJ Kraus.
CJ, of course, a fan of the show, and of course, a recent podcast guest. Yeah, of course, talking to CJ the other day, he I know he's probably a little bummed from his OSG performance, but he still had a great press and some great stuff, and he came unscathed. So excited to see what he brings out. Maybe this will light an even bigger fire under his behind to really compete in 2025. So you get to OSG. So this is your first OSG experience. So you're going up against 40 of the best 105 kilo athletes. So yeah, what did you think when you got to Madison, Wisconsin?
Damn, it's cold. That was my first thought. My second thought was, damn, I can't wait till this weigh-in's over. And when we went to the weigh-ins, I was just so happy to see Aiden Howell, world's strongest mullet, and just have that friendly face there and see him with his gallon of chocolate milk ready for post weigh-ins.
Wow, he's got a gallon of chocolate milk?
Yes, he DoorDashed like a gallon of chocolate milk and some Gatorade to like refuel. And I'm like, dude, I don't know how your stomach can handle that.
You know, I have a funny story when it comes to the chocolate milk at weigh-ins. It was 2013. It was my first nationals in Denison, Texas. So I was doing 231. I had a buddy doing heavyweight, and we were going to weigh-ins, and we saw some guy with some long curly hair, and he didn't really look like much, but he had a gallon of chocolate milk, and we were asking, like, why do you have chocolate milk? He's like, oh, it's for my refeed. I think it just really helps me kind of put the weight back on and feel good about ourselves. But we never heard that before. So we were kind of like pondering, like, this guy's gonna do like really shitty at the show. That guy ended up being Zach McCarley. So he went up, he went on and ended up winning America's Strongest Man that year. So America's Strongest Man was with all the amateurs in Denison, Texas that year for 231s. And then he also was doing the same weights as the heavyweight. So he ended up winning the 265 class. And then he ended up actually taking second in the open heavyweights as a 231 pro. So he ended up kind of crushing it. So we never questioned his methods ever since. But that was my first taste of Zach McCarley, of course, the winner from earlier this year too.
So hold on, you back that up a little bit. Zach McCarley had curly hair.
Yeah, long flowy hair, man. Yeah, and it's great because Zach has a really Zach has a great YouTube channel. So if you go back to, you can find all those contests, and he vlogged before vlogging was very popular in strongman. So you can go back and watch a lot of his stuff. But yeah, he had some long hair. I think he recently cut it because he had long hair at Clash on the Coast. And when he came to do the Axel record in 2022. So I think he recently cut it. So, but ever since then, he always had the long curly hair.
Oh, that's exciting. I was gonna have to like hit him up for like, hey Zach, can you send pictures? Because it's so wild to think of that. Just if you see him now, he's so clean.
He's very clean. And I would say, yeah, Zach is insane. Very much, Davio. Of course, thanks for tuning in. So kind of getting back to a little bit OSG. So you get to OSG. I know, of course, it seems like right now press is not, of course, your top item, but like, of course, you got your one rep at what was it, 300 pounds, right? That was your first rep. Now you're pretty happy with that? Because that seemed like that was a PR, right, from ASM?
No, I actually hit 310 at ASM.
310. Okay, got it.
Yeah, no, considering where I was at and what was going on as far as like coming into the show, yeah, I'm starting to realize how much food can affect that overhead press and just that like energy system that like it relies upon, because it's such especially split jerking it's so explosive and it takes so much out of you to do it. Shout out to actually like Tom Owens for power jerking the log. Like I remember asking him at the show, I'm like, hey, how do you not like waste a ton of energy doing that? And he's like, I do.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if you have to move your feet back into place, that's half the battle as well.
But yeah, no. So I was okay with that. I was like, this is the main reason being it was all I had on the day. Because I did go for 2 more split jerks after it, but the gas just was not there to like put up the log. So 1 rep, I'll take it. It was a lot more than a lot of the field did, because a lot of people were gung ho about the 330, and I just didn't have the 330 on that day. So I was like, okay, I will take my 300 and just be happy with it.
Sure. Now Now, did you hit 300 or heavier in training?
Yeah, I hit 335 for a really good signal in training.
Okay, all right. So potentially of course the Trump log was kind of within your reach, but it is sometimes a little tough to go for a PR or close to PR on that first event. Sometimes again you have the nerves. Sometimes, especially in a setting like that where you have the lights ahead of you, that's always something a big item that you have to figure out. Some people wear sunglasses. Some guys can kind of just zone out. I kind of just kind of like daze into the kind of days and just really kind of like internalize everything. But everybody's a little different in terms of how they cope with the log. And I know that log, being a Bartos, usually is pretty heavy, so probably felt heavier on the chest than other logs.
Oh yeah, no, it does. I'm glad that I decided to actually grab one for my home gym. Like when I first got it, it was like one of the best logs I had just because the powder coating on it was so aggressive that I didn't even need chalk for like the first week and a half. It was that like solid. And going into like training or going into the show, since I didn't go for the monster log, that 300 just felt like, yep, no, I'm back at home doing this all over again. Like I've done this 300 lift, dozens of times at this point. So I just need to get into that same space and just hit this jerk.
Yeah, absolutely. So going into the yoke, you had a great yoke run. Did you surprise yourself, or is yoke usually one of the events that you have up your sleeves? That's usually kind of one that you can always kind of bank on to do well.
Oh, I could always bank on the yoke. I'm like one of the better movers in the 105s. I think I would consider myself one of the better movers, but yoke is something that I just have. I was doing 900 yoke runs just consistently at home because it felt like it was like just right. I know some like pretty much every week just because it was not too much strain on my body. It felt good to do it. And the thing that probably helped me a lot more on the car yoke than I think other people is that there's actually a hill that my house is on and I'm training in front of my house. So I have to get used to running downhill and uphill. So I'm used to trying to figure out the right balance for the yoke. So even picking it up, like before I even did the yoke, I was like, okay, let's aim for like an 8.5 second time and we'll see if that works. And then on the day, I was like, okay, we'll probably get like 9. Okay, we're going to have to pick up the yoke and stabilize it. We'll go for 10.5. And then halfway through it, I was like, I'm going to lose an extra like half second or so just because I couldn't pick up my speed from like, let's say second to third gear because the yoke was just teetering so much that it was more important to keep it up than it was to try to like get more speed. But if I had like 3 or 4 more runs, which I would have loved to have done to like just get more comfortable with that yoke and figure out where that balance point is, it would have been great, like just for the learning experience and things like that. But everyone had the same hand dealt on the show where we all just had to pick it up at the time. I mean, they had a yoke in the back that we could like warm up on so that our nervous system wasn't just taxed right off the bat. But yeah, no, yoke is something that I'm good at, and I'm usually pretty excited to take on.
Excellent. Well, it ended up being a great run for you. You ended up taking second. So it would have been first out of the guys in the finals. So I think that's always important. That's very important. And then following the deadlift, so I was, of course, I was looking at you. I remember watching it live, but of course, going back into your YouTube, I didn't realize that you kind of you go up to set up this with the straps, but then you forget to buckle your belt. So you go back and buckle your belt, and then you go out and hit 6 reps really, really fast and really easy. Now, were you wearing a suit, right?
Yeah, I was in a suit.
Okay, all right. But yeah, that looked pretty easy. Did it feel easy, or did you play it off pretty to make it look pretty comfortable?
So before I even went out for the deadlift, Kevin Candido came up to me and it was like, "Okay, can you at least make it look like it's difficult?" And I was like, "I'll see what I can do." I failed. I'm sorry, Kevin. I just have too much fun deadlifting. Yeah, that felt, I guess for reference, that probably felt like 315 to most people, like deadlifting. Like that felt so light and effortless. Like the difference between the 750 out there and my first warm-up rep at 500 was basically nothing.
Well, so yeah, maybe you have a little more in you. So you excited to push that. We're gonna get into deadlifting. That's of course my next segment because we're trying to dissect it a little bit. But then of course it looked like you had a good run on the medley, and then on day 3, of course you had the sandbags. Of course, It didn't seem like, of course, it was one of your better events. But of course, I'm not a huge fan of sandbag toss either. I always say it's too light of an event. There could be other ones. Could have another press. Could have another item. But yeah, I get it why we always put in sandbags. But yeah, tell us a little about the wrecking ball. So your other event win with the wrecking ball hold, of course, 2 minutes. I would say that's probably higher than most of the other weight classes, and of course, even on the female side. But yeah, what did you think of the wrecking ball setup?
I really liked it. Just because it's one of those things that it's just like, that's such a spectacle to look at. And then like, even before going into the wrecking ball hold, because for the top 10, like every class was going sequentially up. So you had plenty of time to like look at other people doing it. And it was just always insane to like see everyone be okay. And then boom, they're just out of energy and they're just exhausted, like falling onto the back thing. So I think Lynn did a really good job setting up his volunteers and setting up everyone for that to like catch people and everything else. I was really grateful that Mark Deadliest Lift was willing to just talk to me the whole time while I was holding it. Because he like even asked beforehand, he was like, so do you want to talk the whole time or to like make it easier? Or do you want to just go silent? I was like, dude, if you're willing to talk to me, that's the best. And, we just had a conversation about lunch the whole time I was up there.
So you were, I know I remember watching it, but like you were talking during it. So like, you would think that like, of course, releasing air might like make it tougher, right?
I wouldn't know. I legitimately did not feel anything until I got tapped out for swinging the ball too much.
Oh, interesting. So
I'm assuming that's what it was. I remember hearing some rule about that, but yeah, I was still holding it until I got the tap, like saying you're done at 212, and I was like, okay, I'll put this down.
All right. Then of course you have a pretty decent stone run. Of course you were going head to head with McKeegan, so of course I remember watching that. So it was, of course, like looking back at it, did you think that like after going into it that you had fifth place in you, or did you kind of surprise yourself?
Fifth place sounds about right for everything that was going through. It was just really getting into the top 10. That was like the most important thing to like not mess up. I think no matter how things would have shook out, like it probably fifth place is about right for where I'm at right now. Just because if you look at the score sheet, I had really good strengths and really bad weaknesses. Like when you compare everyone in that top 10. So yeah, I did what I could.
I was looking at, so in the top 10, you had technically, because of the yoke, since you were the best yoker out of the guys that made the finals, you technically had 3 event wins. And the only other guy that had that was Alec, so our eventual champion, and only 5 points off of podium. So of course, if you make up some of the other points, of course, going to be right there. Planning on coming back next year?
We'll have to see how things play out. It's hard to travel and see how much vacation time I actually have with work and things like that. Yeah. So right now I'm only looking at like the first half of next year, and then we'll just kind of like see how things play out by year. Like a lot of it depends on location and like the cost of like flying out and traveling, and then the cost of, the time away and things like that. So if the cards play out, then yeah, I'll probably be back, but we'll just have to wait and see on that.
All right. Excellent. Well, of course, everybody will be excited either way. And of course, maybe some of the deadlifters will be happy if you potentially just got to skip it. But again, everybody wants to compete against the best, so they probably hope that you're there. But we're gonna talk about deadlifts going forward, but we're gonna take a quick commercial break. So 40 seconds, Christopher. Are you ready to shake up your training? Are you ready for your next challenge? Tsunami Bar Sports is here to boost your power, stability, and coordination. Whether you're superloading and using it to target barbell-centric movements or using it for ballistic weighted plyometrics for more sport-specific purposes, the Tsunami Bar has you covered. Our patented and flexible barbell technology is designed to help you improve in all things human performance. Discover the difference at Tsunami Bar Sports today. Visit tsunamisports.com to learn more. Use CANBY10 for 10% off of any Tsunami Bar product, or pause the screen and use the QR code. Now back to the show. Have you ever gotten floppy, Chris? Have you ever got your hands on the Tsunami Bar?
I have not gotten my hands on a Tsunami Bar.
All right. Well, I always say it's a pretty interesting tool. Of course, very helpful throughout my career. And it's interesting. Me and Amazon were talking about it. Of course, he wants to see it more in Europe. So I think if any Europeans are listening to the recording or on live, will eventually be a distributor out in Europe, being able to kind of send that out. But talking about deadlifting, I don't think Tsunami Bar. It would be tough to deadlift the Tsunami Bar because it can only hold so much. But I have one Tsunami Bar that can hold up to 800 pounds. So maybe one of these times, if we ever get you Boston, Massachusetts, we'll try to max out the Tsunami Bar. But yeah, so how did you get into the rhythm of your deadlifting? Was it through you talked about your coach from that powerlifting gym when you first started? But like, what do you think kind of sparked it, or what's your philosophy when it comes to deadlifting?
It really just okay, so talking about my older coach, and this is a really weird way to like start your strongman career. There wasn't really that many deadlifts in my early career somehow. Like, and so we never really got programmed aside from like just being an accessory very early on for like just general strength building and training. But the one thing that my first coach had said was, think about proprioception, like the way that your body feels in relation to like all of the like space around you. And that's kind of carried me a lot through a lot of different events and things. So knowing what muscles are activating and like really feeling and contracting every single muscle and knowing how they move, to the point where like deadlift to me is my favorite one, because I can feel almost every single muscle in my body working. And then you can feel, as you lift the bar up, you can like feel every plate clicking into place as you like take out that tension in the bar and just get it to move and really like root your feet. Sorry, I'm getting super touchy feely and like
No, this is good. Keep going.
Like the space, but like that feeling of like, okay, you're gonna spread your toes out and like you feel yourself root into the ground. And after you get that like first root into the ground, just feeling that chain like start picking up right at the quads, into like the hamstrings, into your back, like feeling the lengthening of your arms and just every inch of your muscle fiber like just tightening and bracing to like bring all of that together with a tight trunk. It's just a feeling like no other. So just really focusing on the getting the efficiency of that movement pattern up by, thinking about where your muscles are and where the bar is in relation to yourself.
Now, it's interesting you talk about the activation, because I had Austin Andrade on. Now it's almost like 10 episodes ago, but he talked a lot about even watching Mitch Hooper's deadlift warm up, and he would go super slow up, and of course, even eccentrically, you go down really slow. And for the most part, oh, sorry, my dog has yummy tummy syndrome, so she just had a nice meal, so she has to bury her belly, bury her toy. But Mitch Hooper would just do really slow, maybe like with 150 up to 150 kilos, just super slow to feel every muscle activating. But do you make sure to get like super activated? Like, do you do any special warm ups, or what's your thoughts in terms of like warming up for deadlifts?
I'm probably the worst person to talk to about warm-ups for deadlifts, because I just do the bro split of like, all right, let's start at 400. And I'm even thinking of not starting at 400, but we're not there yet. So start off at 400, like just pick that up, see how that feels, and then like slowly start feeling more and more of the resistance as you like go up with the bar, because every rep basically feels the same, and I'm just cueing everything the whole entire time. I'm not doing a slow eccentric up or anything like that. It's just moving to get the like for deadlift and like anything that like is super like heavy weights wise, or anything lower body. Most of it is just kind of getting your brain on board to like actually lift it. I would say is more or less my philosophy on warming up. It's just priming yourself so that it's not a complete shock to your brain when you lift it.
So the mind body connection is very important for you.
Yes, it is important for me when doing maximal work.
All right, interesting. Now, in terms of like, let's say like leading up to OSG, so you had 750, right? It was 750 or 760 for reps on the Trump log. Sorry, Trump deadlift.
It was 750 for reps.
So did you do competition weight? Did you go over competition weight? Were you repping out like low weight, like leading up to it, like 90%? But what did that look like in terms of rep scheme leading into that?
So leading into it, I had a pretty solid prep in the suit for that. So the way that my lifting is structured right now is we've got like a heavy day and a light day. So I'm deadlifting both ways, but with the suit was the light day, and yeah, I had hit competition weight pretty early on for 6 reps, leaving a little bit in the tank, like leaving quite a bit in the tank, just to kind of like get the feeling of it. And I realized that the axle bar that I actually have in my house, because I did the initial, like when I had gotten the suit, the 750 for 6, I had done that at one of the local gyms, and instead of and they had an axle bar that was smooth, which makes a lot of difference because mine has like this knurling powder coat on it, which made the deadlifts like way harder at home in the suit. But I got the job done. But for the most part, I didn't really go over competition weight because I was training in like the rep ranges of like 6, 8, 3, 5 kind of type, or anything over, like it was over 5 reps almost the whole entire time. And I wasn't really pushing for like maximal like weight. It was just kind of like it ended up being close to competition weight, but I was just training for reps.
So all right, interesting. So what was your heaviest set leading in training then?
In training, I did to make sure that I didn't get like too used to the suit. My coach had me go ahead and do just raw deadlifts on the barbell, and my heaviest one there was 800 for a double, but that was also leaving quite a bit in the tank.
Now, how many weeks out was that from the competition?
That was about 4 weeks. 4 weeks out.
And then after the 4 weeks, you kind of went back into the suit and did some again from 5 to 8 reps of kind of lighter.
No, I was training both. I would say as soon as I got the suit, I was training twice a week. I was doing deadlifts twice a week.
Okay.
One day in the suit, one day raw.
Okay.
But the heavy day was raw, and the rep day, like the light day, was in the suit, even though the weight on both of them was about the same because the suit just adds so much.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, interesting. So you're kind of again mixing up both raw and suited. Now you're even in this training, like outside of just pure deadlifts, were you doing like a lot of variations? Were you doing a lot of accessory works, or were you just purely deadlifting conventionally?
Pretty much just purely deadlifting conventionally. I mean, there was like a little bit of like accessory work on the back end, but I would say that's just kind of like normal programming structure where you just do accessories to just keep yourself strengthened. I wasn't doing anything uniquely specific.
Now, outside of competition, do you have a favorite accessory, or do you like, for instance, like elevated deadlifts to work on certain sticking points? Do you find yourself doing deficit work? Do you find yourself even using like a trap, like Mexican trap bar? But like, what do you think has helped you in the past to get your deadlift to what it is now?
In the past, I would say,
or just leading into, let's just say OSG, just the last few years, what do you think has contributed to your deadlift strength?
I mean,
solid programming.
I think it's just solid programming and just that, like, just a lot of natural like ability and talent. Like it's one of those things where I don't think I'm doing anything uniquely different than anyone else to get an edge. I just think I'm advantaged for the deadlift and have a really good ability to push myself to get those numbers.
Interesting. So for the most part, now like outside of OSG, were you always kind of deadlifting twice a week?
No, actually. So the deadlifting twice a week is a new thing from my coach, Jordan Roscoe. He's with Rise and Defy Athletics. So he's been my coach who I hired mainly to fix my overhead. And we've made a lot of progress in that realm just because my overhead was even worse than it is now. I've gotten it to the point where it's at least on the bottom end of mediocre, which I'm happy with because we take our wins where we can get them. But and we're improving. We'll get the overhead up even more here soon. But I found it interesting at first when he was like, yeah, I'd like you deadlifting twice a week, and we're going to go ahead and have like a volume day and then a more of like a peaked kind of day. And I was surprised that my body just accepted it so well. And it was better than what I was doing before. Because when I was programming for myself, I was doing massive amounts of volume. To just kind of simplify it a little bit more, I would basically do an RPE 8 deadlift, an RPE 9 deadlift, an RPE 10 deadlift for like an AMRAP, and then I would deload, and then we just repeat every month.
All right, interesting. So you like to do three week blocks, and then with a deload week?
Yeah, it was 3 week blocks and a deadlift week. That was what I was doing on my own programming, which I think helped build a lot of volume and mass and work capacity in those early stages. But at this point with my coach, it's like the difference between having a sledgehammer and just going to town, destroying a statue kind of type thing, and slowly like chiseling it with a hammer and being more refined. Because now I think I'm pushing heavier, like with my coach, I'm pushing heavier weights and I'm feeling more recovered and rested. Like I don't feel like I need as much like it's not like, oh gosh, I'm so looking forward to this deload week because I'm dying. It's like oh no, I'm just at a pretty solid level of training and recovery constantly.
All right, interesting. But of course, my big takeaway. So the AMRAPs, so the RP 8, 9, and 10. I think that's something to consider. So for instance, would you do for instance just one set of AMRAP that, like for instance week one set of AMRAP at 9, week 2, and one set of deadlift?
Yeah, it was something along the lines of and I could look it up again if you give me a moment. I think I can find it fairly quickly.
Sure.
What it was.
Well, this could be good content for your own YouTube channel in terms of this is what programming has helped me. Because I would say for the most part, it's not easy to win the deadlift at ASM and win the deadlift at OSG in the same year. I didn't even do that feat even in 2021. I tied for the deadlift at ASM and I took second behind Stephen Bradley at World. So I came close. I was always of course, deadlifting used to be my biggest hindrance, and then I brought that up a lot when starting from like 2020 on. But it took me years to kind of master my deadlift. Of course, my press is what came pretty natural to me. But
yeah, again, I was going to say, so the overhead press, you probably won that both, at ASM and OSG in the same year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope I was claiming to be the best presser, so I hope I kept. But yeah, I think I went on, but now I need to do that at the heavyweights. I can't lose it. I can't keep losing any more Viking presses to these fat slobs, right, Chris? I gotta start beating them up, even though I'm becoming a fat slob myself. But less about me, more about you. So again, winning deadlifts at ASM and OSG. Pretty impressive. Do you ever plan to max out at all, or are you waiting for a competition to potentially to do that?
I've been waiting for a competition to potentially do that at, because it's something I've just been curious about. Because I don't think I've maxed out in 3 years. Because I was hoping to do it at the Olympic City Pro-Am, but the judge Chad Coy, because I was like, I didn't think I was gonna win the Olympic City Pro-Am. I was like, yeah, no, these are the pros. I kind of showed that I'm not quite there yet. I'm just here to have fun more than anything else. And then I pulled I wanted to open it, would have tied for the top deadlift, but I was like, man, all these guys are having trouble with the deadlift. Let me drop my opener down so that I can kind of feel the weight out. And I'm like, no, it feels the same as at home, like deadlift wise. And then just decided to take a lighter deadlift than a max and just take the win and then save energy for the rest of the show.
All right. Interesting. So what did Chad Coy say? Just settle down and just focus on the rest of the show.
Yeah. He was basically like, look, don't count yourself out. You have a shot at this. And I'm glad because I've actually seen, where I'm at, and that opened up an opportunity that wouldn't have been there before if I just decided to start throwing down with the heavyweights.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, one of these days we'll hope to see you in the max show. Maybe beat Josh King's record, right? I think Josh has 925 pounds I think that's what he said, or is it 9:30? I forget exactly.
I think it's 9:25 or 9:26. I don't know, but we'll see what happens in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. I know he ended up getting sick, and of course had some health items that he wasn't able to shot. But of course, maybe one day we'll see that deadlift battle. But again, you still beat some pretty great deadlifters like Stephen Bradley, Mr. McKeegan. So again, I think proving that you're when it comes to deadlifting, you're one of the guys to beat. But last topic on the deadlift. So what do you suggest for our listeners when it comes to deadlifting? Like if there's a certain philosophy or there's a certain way that they can improve their deadlift, what would you recommend them?
Like honestly, anytime I've like talked to anyone when they get ready for their deadlift, the biggest thing is just not bracing the core and keeping that stiff trunk. That seems to be the most common issue because if you don't have that stable base to start deadlifting off of, you're not going anywhere.
Do you think you're one of the best bracers out there?
I would say I'm okay.
All right.
Potentially pretty good. It really just kind of depends because once once you discover the soft belt hard belt thing, it makes a world of difference because the soft belt is just like it gives you a little like tickle to just be like, hey, activate here. And then your brain's just like, okay, I'm gonna start like flexing now. And then the hard belt comes in, and it's like, okay, this is the actual thing that you're gonna push against. And I think that's something that's just good for that like body awareness is training with a soft belt just to know where you need to be bracing against, even if it does or does not give that much support.
All right. Interesting. All right. Well, of course, a lot of good notes. I hope a lot of good takeaways. Maybe I'll clip that up and we'll talk. You'll see some clips about deadlifting going forward. But my biggest takeaway is, I would say, would be some of that AMRAP, and then also just that body connection and that body awareness. So just figuring out what's activating. And if it's not activating, get those muscles activated. So I know there's not much to talk about, but of course you're from New Mexico. There's not a lot of New Mexico strongman out there, but so is there probably a few competitions, a few like USS competitions out that way?
I think there's starting to be some momentum in the New Mexico scene. There's right now I can think of there's a USS competition that's held every year. There's going to be a strongman core competition coming here soon because Sonia Schofield is the new rep for New Mexico, and she's been trying to get the New Mexico scene up and running just a little bit more now. So she'll have like a New Mexico Strongest Man coming up here soon. There's another guy named Bradley that wants to start hosting his own shows, and I think they're going to be Strongman Core as well. And then every year there's always a charity event at the beginning of the year run by Sonia for the Crossroads for Women. And I've done that show quite a few times just because she's asked me to come out and be like, hey, show them what strongman can be at that like top end level. And I'm like, okay, we could do that. And then on top of that, there's one show that I've wanted to do, but just haven't had the chance for it because it falls in that like winterish timeline right before OSG, which was Red River Strongest. And that one is like basically an Oktoberfest kind of type thing with like drinking and like big events and things like that. And it does have like it's had a prize pool in the past. I don't know how that's going to go moving forward, but that's one that seems like it would be a lot of fun to do. Just to, go into the open class and be like, yeah, I'm going to drink some beers in between things and just kind of goof around.
All right. Excellent. But it looks like there's a few shows. So if anybody from New Mexico is listening, so I would say, yeah, plenty of good competitions, plenty of good promoters, but always hit up Chris if you guys have any questions about New Mexico gyms or New Mexico places of strongman. So Chris, you talked a little bit about your future plans. So you're going to do, of course, Luke Davies and Rhiannon's show. And then what other shows would you have in mind? Is the new Arnold middleweight world championships on your mind in March? Is that you chewing on that at all? Because it has a heavy trap bar for reps. It has a yoke. It has a max log, so you can still take decent points. And again, keep pushing that max log. But what do you think about that show?
I wish I could do it. I don't think it's in the cards, especially with the Chaos show in February. That's just such a close timing for such big shows. And then like, because I actually would like to go check out the UK just a little bit. If I'm going to be flying over there for a competition anyway, I just don't have the time to go do it vacation hours wise.
Sure, absolutely. So we'll keep our. What do you think about if ASM's in the cards again, like in the summer? Would that be something along the line?
ASM's definitely in the cards.
So yeah, so hopefully Miskiff will host again, and maybe you can tell him again that his podcast put you to sleep or his live stream. So now, did you know of Miskiff before?
No,
you didn't.
I didn't know that much about Miskiff aside from like there was this one video talking about like how he uses like the same tactics as sitcoms by having an open door to like get people in. It was a really interesting video, and that's the only like thing that I had heard of. Miskiff didn't, initially like interest me, but started checking out some of his stuff when he started to like try to open up his own gym and things like that, just because I find that interesting. Like people that are passionate enough to be like, this isn't going to make me any money, but I'm still going to do it because I just feel that strongly about this.
It was pretty. It was funny, but of course he really remembered you because it was like you're the only one that actually like watched his stream, I think, ahead of time. So I think you did enjoy that.
Just a little checking out, and I realized how it like came off as like, oh, these things put me to sleep. They're so boring. It was just kind of like no, my wife and I just checked out some of your stuff before we went to bed, but it was really, not high energy or anything like that. It was just like oh, that's pretty neat, and that was it.
Davio has the skinny on him, so of course, yeah, he's a pretty big gamer. And then his friend Canute. So I know they do the Camp Canute. I saw that because I remember I think they had it in Austin. But yeah, of course he's doing a lot with fitness, and it'll be interesting if he keeps going. His stuff always kind of pops onto my Twitch. I watch it a little bit, but I randomly ran into him when I was in Vegas. I was staying at the Aria. And it was midnight, and he just walks by me with two buddies, and he just happened to be in Vegas just randomly. And I was like, holy shit, that's Miskiff. So we caught up for about 10, 20 minutes. But of course we didn't party. I was very kind of pooped out. I can't really handle Vegas anymore. I'm getting old, but
I was going to say, like, at this point in time, I don't want to stay up past 10. Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I want to go to bed at the time that I go to bed, wake up the same time every morning. That consistency just helps so much.
Absolutely. Of course. Yeah. Good rest. That's of course one of the biggest thing. I think that's one of Mitchell's Hooper's top tenements in terms of things you need to do well is of course get a good night's sleep on top of your diet. But we've been pretty positive on the show so far, Christopher. But in the world of strongman, is there anything that grinds your gears? Is there anything that you see on Instagram? Is there anything on online culture and the gym that, of course, that doesn't sit right with you, that just makes the gears grind?
So normally I wouldn't have an answer for this because I love strongman. It's such a good sport, so positive. I love that everyone just brings, the best to the table that they can on the day. But there has been one trend that I noticed. They're just slowly getting corrected. But man, it's the thing that grinds my gears is when the boys don't want to go out for a drink after the competition. It's like, guys, we've been training hard, we've been working hard all day, and you don't want to sit down and talk about the show, grab a beer, chat, have some good times, reminisce, talk about what life is like back home. That's the one thing that grinds my gears.
I think that having a after party, I think I was saying this on the last episode with Evans Nana, having an after party is, of course, we're networking. It's, of course, a lot of the building rapport and building friendships and learning about your fellow competitor. Again, you just went toe to toe with them for 2 or 3 days. I think it's super important. I think that's, of course, I think it's as a staple in everything. So I know in the past, after ASM, there was no really after party. I think a lot of times the guys just have to kind of chat, but it's very.
Shout out to Aiden Howell for coming out with me for drinks afterwards. He was a real one.
Yeah. Do you guys, what do you guys get into trouble, or you guys up all night, or?
No, I'm an old
A few
man.
beers?
He's actually Aiden's really cool. He's got a lot of energy and things like that, but he was hanging out with his grandma, so you know, we were having a good time and kept it civil.
When you say old man, are you saying like late? Are you late 20s?
I'm 30.
30. Okay, all right. You're saying old man. I'm 35, so easy does it. Easy does it. But yes, but yeah, I would say that has gone along with mothers. I think it's super important to have after party. I think the bigger the after party, the better. So of course we're kind of wrapping up the show. So you guys tuning in if they have any more kind of questions. But what are you asking Santa for Christmas this year?
That's a good question. Honestly, to just put a smile on my kids' faces.
Oh, very nice. So that is, of course, thinking of others. There you go. I like it. I was thinking maybe another log, or maybe a new yoke, or a deadlift bar, but no, he's thinking about his children.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was the first thing that came to my mind. I'm just like, you know what? As long as my kids are happy, that's the most important thing.
So what are some of your strongman goals look like? So like when everything's said and done, what are you looking to achieve in the sport of strongman? What do you kind of say when you set out to be a strongman? What was some things that you want to check the box off?
So I think I just checked off one of my like goals because, well, I've checked off a few of them. An 800-pound deadlift was just one of those things that sounds really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Nailed it. Like every strongman, I'd also like to have a 400 overhead at some point in time. Got a lot of work to get there, but we'll try for it. The other thing that I think I actually achieved is I've always just wanted to be one of the top 105s. Didn't necessarily have to be the best 105, but in the conversation at the table. And I think this year has been my year to actually do that. So I'm glad to like just check that off the box and say, yeah, I'm there. I'd like to actually win one of the big 105 shows. That'd just be cool, but it really depends on how well I do compared to other people. So if it's one of those things where I brought my absolute best and have worked on all my weaknesses and improved to the point where there wasn't that much more to improve, and there's just another guy who's better than me, so be it. I'm going to keep training and doing my best. And whenever, opportunity makes hard work, I'll be happy. But for now, I'd like to, if it happens. If it doesn't happen, hey, I'm already at the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can be satisfied with that. And then the last one is to just get invited to the Deadlift World Championships.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like huge and cool.
Excellent. Well, they had of course open call out. So I think definitely potentially get around 950, or if maybe decide to move on beyond 105 kilos, I think that could be in the wheelhouse. I think that would be very cool. Of course, they've done Jamal Browner. They've done other kind of smaller guys to get invited, but yeah, of course they always look for exceptional. So yeah, you put in a good training, put in a good, maybe of course a good rep in a competition, or maybe in a, of course in a good setting, maybe they'll give you a call. Who knows? Did you talk to Colin or Darren at all when you were at OSG?
I did talk to Colin, and he told me flat out, he's just like, pull, we don't want like a good deadlifter in a weight class. We want the best. And I'm like, that's fair. And he's just like, pull this number, make it look easy, and we'll find you. Don't worry about contacting us. We'll find you.
All right. Well, he told you what you need. So I'm glad. So you asked about your potentially. Awesome. Way to go. Sometimes you got to ask the order.
That 750 felt so light on that day. Like, I could not tell you how weightless that felt.
Double digits, maybe, if you strapped in early and you did all 60 seconds.
If I had all 60 seconds, yeah, no, definitely. I think if I had actually tried or been pushed to, I probably, in the time frame, because I'll admit, ego lifter here.
Yes.
I very much wanted to casually come up to the bar. That was very intentional. I didn't want to be rushing and running and trying to do all that stuff because I knew I had the time. I knew I was totally good. I just needed 15 seconds and that'd be enough to get, like 6 or 7 reps. That's all I needed. But on the day, 16 reps was there.
16 reps.
I would say 16 at
Awesome.
750.
Well, one of these days, maybe we'll see. Maybe there's someone in the 105 class is going to want to push you and knock you off your deadlift pedestal. So maybe they'll push you to that point one day. Let's go over to Davio for a second. Correct me if I'm wrong, but recent strongman events focus more on speed. What do you think about that? And do you think someone can beat Mitch's records in the upcoming Arnold Classic? He's known for his agility. It will be interesting because, first of all, we don't know what the Arnold events are, so that's be tough. But like in general, strongman, I think, has gone back and forth in terms of there's some contests that focus on, I think, overall speed and agility. There's some contests that are pretty heavy or pretty stacked. Like I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but like let's just say the Arnold Classic when they had the Denny Stone walk. That's not light by any means, right? Because one stone's like 400, the other one's in 300 and change, and you're trying to walk 5, 10, 15 meters. So, what do you think? Do you think strongman has moved towards more agility stuff, or do you think it's as heavy as ever?
Both. I think both are true. I think the strongman at this point has incorporated more agility and moving events, which I think makes for more entertaining, like watching, to see somebody actually like move fast and have like the objects. I think they're weighted in the appropriate weight where it's both heavy and you have to move fast for the moving events. But it's not like we still don't have the heavy static events. They're still there. There's still a gauge to like be, or there's still a standard to be like measured to.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it depends on what show you're talking about. Like SEL shows, very lighter, more athletic. You're going to see, again, a little more of just kind of, again, pure athleticism. The Arnold is always going to be heavy, even that's for reps or if that's for like a max. Of course, we're seeing there was 3 or 4 shows that have max reps. World's Strongest Man is always going to be lighter in the heats and heavier in the finals. And then you look at something like which of course Strongest Man on Earth is heavy just to be heavy, and then the Rogue has a lot of heavy medleys. So I think it's definitely combine the two. So that's a great answer. So of course we talked a little bit before, but if you want to follow Christopher, I'm going to have his Instagram below, and also I'm going to have his YouTube. So I hope to see more YouTubes going on. I think YouTube is the best way to connect. And I'm already seeing some pretty good editing skills coming out of you, Chris. So are you doing all your own editing?
I do not want to take credit for that. That is my wife.
The wife.
Jessie.
Oh, good job, Jessie.
She is on point for all of this stuff. And she is so passionate about like the production and everything. Like she's the reason why I have this like, nice backdrop right here. And the lighting is actually pretty okay, I think, for the most part. She's just amazing. Like behind every, great man or woman is a support network. And she is like just carrying it on her back.
Oh, excellent. Well, of course, good job, Jessie. And then after Christmas, I'm going to have Nick Hine on. And then after Christmas, I'm going to have Josh Spurgeon on. In the new year, I'm going to have Nick Hine on. But who does Chris want to see as a future guest?
As a future guest?
Like I'm going to, of course, maybe sometime in 2025. Who rings a bell that you like? I want to hear from this guy.
It's kind of the problem. You've had so many of the good guys on already that it's hard for me to like be like, this guy is totally like the guy to talk to. Maybe put Kevin Candido or Aiden Howell on.
Ooh,
I think that's a good contrast of, you've got Kevin Candido, the, grizzled veteran who could probably tell you all the different like stories and things like that. And is just generally a good guy. And then you've got Aiden Howell, who's just up and coming and just full of energy and just ready to like take on the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been looking to try to do more live podcasts, especially with the local guys. So maybe that'll be a good one. Maybe I'll head down to Lightning Fitness. I know I've talked to Matt Mills in my messages and talk about having a seminar down there. So maybe I can make it a whole weekend and have those guys on. And especially, I think Aiden wants to go for the 231 American record at the Arnold middleweight world championship. So maybe that'll be a good one to discuss after, because of course that'll be my record. So of course the KMB shirts are still available. So Mr. Mike O'Connor, got my buddy Anthony Pickering, and then the boys, of course, Judas Peach over there, sporting the Canby shirts. And of course, thank you to all the members. And then to finish out the show, what's one piece of advice you want to leave the listeners to, for instance, their last memory of Chris Otero on the podcast?
Don't lose the love for the sport. And if you do, do something else, because life's too short. There's way too many things that you could be doing to not enjoy what you're doing. And, for those that are at the top, I hope you keep putting your hearts into it, because it's so much fun to compete against everyone and to just see everyone who really has a passion and love for this sport.
Awesome. Well said. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for watching in. And of course, till next time, stay strong.